Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea, the show where we take a look at some of the biggest news stories surrounding Chelsea in recent days. And of course we are still coming off the back and buzzing and celebrating that win against Lille in the Champions League last night. Absolutely brilliant win, and you can check out my rational perspective and extended thoughts on that game. Link will be in the description box below. But yeah, a brilliant win and something to savour really, because it was such an important 3 points in the context of the group. As I stated in the video, as you'll see, I think it's going to be crucial for the squad and their belief and confidence in that game. Also, just another thing before we get started, my article for the Chelsea Echo this week came out on Wednesday. It's about Jorginho and the positive change in opinion, fan opinion towards him. Really enjoyed making the article. I'm a big fan of Jorginho, so it was really good writing that article. So definitely go and check that out. Link will be in the description box for that as well. So go and check that out. But coming into Let's Talk Chelsea, and one player, of course, who did feature and scored last night was Tammy Abraham, and that's where we're going to start today on Let's Talk Chelsea, because he is close and it appears will be called up to the England squad by Gareth Southgate. It's reported that Tammy Abraham is set to receive a first competitive call-up for England when Gareth Southgate names his squad on Thursday for the Euro 2020 qualifiers against Czech Republic and Bulgaria. Brilliant news for Tammy and brilliant news for Chelsea. It's a call-up that is expected. You look at Tammy's form, especially since the international break, it's been good. So I think scored 4 goals since then, and I think he deserves it absolutely to get his chance. Now it's going to be very difficult up against the likes of Harry Kane to become a starter, but I think the fact that Southgate is going to give him that chance, and luckily we've got a manager now in England that will give young players chances, just like Lampard is at Chelsea. I think it fits in very nicely, and we've got a crop of players at Chelsea now, young English players like Mason, like Tammy, like Callum Hudson-ODOI, maybe for Kyle Tomori as well, and Ruben when he comes back, that could all be featuring for Chelsea in the Euros next summer, which is really exciting and really promising, because for a long time Chelsea fans, for the lack of players we had in the first team for England, you sort of felt very detached. But I think Chelsea fans are going to become very invested within England and the young players' development if they get call up. So brilliant news for Tammy. Let me know your thoughts on Tammy Abraham and the call up in the comments below. The next thing to discuss is Christian Pulisic. Now he has found himself out of the Chelsea first team since the international break, and it's been a really interesting talking point that's grown in speed. I've seen comments in my videos talking about it, and it's just a general thing that people have been discussing. Where is Christian Pulisic? Why hasn't he been playing more under Lampard? And I think this is a really interesting topic that I want to dive into and give you my thoughts on. He didn't play a minute of Prem football in September, which really is quite staggering. Now, I would argue, at least in some of those occasions, especially the Liverpool game, Frank had 2 of his 3 subs used up by half time because of injury. So on that occasion, I think I can understand why Pulisic wasn't used in that situation. And of course we have the price tag of him coming in, for that big price tag from Borussia Dortmund, being sort of the star player, and people expecting a lot of him even though he's very young, and him coming in, starting well, getting minutes under Lampard, but then literally after the international break being taken out of it, and now the likes of Willian, Pedro, Mason Mount and Hudson-ODOI, who's just come back as well, all getting in front of him. I think that firstly I'll go into the price tag, because this is something that does frustrate me a bit, because 60 million, yes, is a lot of money, but I'd say we all know the market is absolutely ridiculous at this point, and Chelsea are buying a player for 60 million, not for today. They're buying at 60 million for tomorrow. Borussia Dortmund know the quality of Christian Pulisic. That's why they've rated him at 60 million, because he's a highly sought prospect. That's why Chelsea went in for him. That's why the likes of Liverpool were in for him as well. And what we're buying here is the potential that, and then Dortmund obviously want to be compensated for that, of his development, is a player that could potentially become one of the best in the world. So just because we're paying big money, in 5 years' time, that could look pretty cheap if he comes to fruition and breaks into the Chelsea first team and scores a lot of goals and becomes an amazing player for us. So there's that as well. I think everyone expects, just because that price tag, that instantly means you're going to get a ready-made player. You're not. If Christian Pulisic was a 25, 26-year-old coming in for that price tag and we were having this problem, I'd be more worried. But he's not. He's younger and sort of similar age to a lot of our young players within the squad, and I think people forget that a lot of the time. So we are buying a long-term project here in Pulisic, and we're buying potential. Now that potential needs to come out, and that potential needs to be utilised and needs to be beneficial to the club, but it's something that's going to take time. I think as well, long term here, Willian's playing very well at the moment, and as I spoke about my rational perspective and the Brighton game as well, I think it's pushing some of these more experienced players to play well because they know their position is up for grabs. And long term this season, it's a long season. We are only just in October now, and Willian, although he's playing well at the moment, I would still expect, because of his age, we're going to get a similar output from him. So come February, come March, you don't know how injuries and form and where we are in the table and circumstance could allow Pulisic to get back into the team. So I think you need to take that in consideration. Willian, if he just does the same as he's done before in terms of output, Pulisic has that chance to take that spot, absolutely. And he is under a manager that is going to give players chances. He's in a good situation in the moment, even though he might not feel like it being out of the team, but he's under a manager that very much wants to give players chances, and if you're good enough, if you train hard enough, if you're doing what he requires, you will get a chance in the team. And in previous cases, if you're out of the team, the chances of you getting minutes was very low and very slim in a lot of cases. And I think, we've seen Klopp with Fabinho, a more experienced player, bedding them in slowly over time, not putting them in the fire, and now eventually they grow into a first team player. That could be similar to Pulisic. He's moved from America to Germany to England. He's clearly struggling with the pace, maybe the physicality of the league. I think it was really interesting. Liam Toomey wrote an article for The Athletic about this, and just about Pulisic and his struggles to get minutes and stats in comparison to his competition in the same position in the squad. Pulisic is apparently averaging fewer tackles per 90 minutes than Pedro, Mount or Willian in the Premier League this season, as well as fewer interceptions per 90 minutes than Willian or Pedro. Toomey also goes on to add that these deficiencies become more important when you consider that Chelsea as a team rank 4th and 3rd in the division for those two categories. Lampard wants his attacking players to be aggressive in their search for the ball. That's a really important point, and I think that it's one that Pulisic is going to have to improve and work on to get into the team, because if he's not doing what the manager requires of him and there are players outperforming him, he's going to struggle to get minutes. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration as well with the actual stats, that there are players outworking him and doing better things at the moment. Now, I would add to those players have played in England and have become accustomed to playing in England. Pulisic has only been in England for a couple of months, so and his age as well. So hopefully he will become accustomed and improve on that himself over time. Another thing I want to touch on with this is also the idea that Lampard is somehow so pro-English players that he's, anti-foreign players, and he doesn't want to give Pulisic a chance, and he's just going to give the likes of Mason Mount minutes because they're English. Absolute nonsense, because I can throw it back in your face. Why is he playing Cesar Azpilicueta over Reece James? Why is he starting Willian over Hudson-ODOI? That argument falls apart, and I think it really is a detriment to your argument if you're frustrated about Pulisic's playing time. I think that it's just non-existent, and I don't think it helps the argument really in the debate, and it really sours it and takes it to a place it shouldn't be going to, and it's just going to create more divide, which you don't need in the fan base this year. We had so much of that crap last year. I don't want it this year, so I just think that needs to be stopped straight away, because that's not a valid argument for me. As I say, 6 months down the line, Pulisic is still barely getting in the squad, barely getting minutes. We can revisit this conversation. But I think, he's already got 3 assists already this season, which is more than the likes of Nicolas Pepe has, who's been now a first team regular and is a more experienced player for a higher price tag than him. So I think there's also that, and character of Christian Pulisic. I remember watching a documentary for ESPN where they were speaking about his development and his character, having to play as a young kid, as a smaller player against higher age groups in more physical games, and he's come through it, and I truly have the belief that Pulisic has got the talent to overcome this. So I think overall, people, as ever, always overreact with things, and absolutely we want to see Pulisic, who's a talented player, and I'm sure like many American fans as well want to see him come through, but Frank is implementing a meritocracy, so Pulisic is going to have to earn that spot. But I truly believe if he works hard enough, improves his game, he will get those minutes, and hopefully when he gets those minutes, he can take his chance. So that is it for this edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Let me know your thoughts on everything I discussed in the comments below. If you did enjoy the video, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.